Um, Working in Agriculture by Jessica, Becky, Laura, Nicole, and Santiago. So, government agents and missionaries were determined to make First Nations people into farmers as part of their process of civilization. Just as the industrial takeover of salmon, resources displaced First Nations of the coast from their fishing grounds. They had a small land base and little capitalization to appreciate commercial farms. First Nations utilized a wide diversity of plants and animals, moving through large areas of land. The principal resources required for agriculture are land and water, and the First Nations were denied access to these resources. Any British citizen could take 60 to 320 acres of unoccupied land and improve it. Settlers arrived from 1860 to 1870, taking up land and water rights. Laws prohibiting settlers from claiming burial sites. First Nations people would seek justice, but the legal system was against them, and the settlers led to beaver and deer being chased out of their habitat. First Nations people were involved in agriculture in three ways: by subsistence farming, which provided food for families, potato gardens, and vegetable gardens. Commercial farming died because they made more money working as laborers on large farms and could then continue with their seasonal activities. Farming in the Okanagan. One of BC's prime agriculture areas is the Okanagan Valley. The people of the Okanagan produced a wide range of food and materials throughout the mountains and valleys. Most Okanagan people through the province grew potatoes beginning in the 1840s. Okanagan chiefs agreed to permit Europeans to share land and resources. The best wintering grounds were in Penticton. The rancher was unwilling to pay the Penticton people for wintering, therefore the cattle were dying. Ranching became the way of life in the Okanagan during the final decades in the 1800s. Hops were one of the crops grown at Coldstream and shipped to Britain. First Nations laborers picked the hops. The Okanagan people were the major workforce. The First Nations people were paid in coupons and colored cards, which were cashed only at local stores. Okanagan people had to settle for working and laborers on the farms of newcomers, sending off fruit to the market, picking in fields, canning, and packing. The 20th century cattle industry was disappearing from the Okanagan. Now, fruit farming became the main form of agriculture in the valley. The profitable orchards were water and expensive irrigation systems. The most frustrating obstacle was getting water supplies for irrigation. Water rights were controlled under the British Columbia Water Act. Water licenses were denied to anyone who did not own their land, and ranching. Cattle ranching came to the interior of BC from the United States in the 1860s following the gold rush. Large expanses of land were used to raise cattle were there for the newcomers to take. The colonial government sold and leased land for very little. Soon ranching became established in the Okanagan Valley, the Nicole Valley, and the Caribou and the Chilcotin country. First Nations people found ranching to fit their lifestyles. First Nations people knew how to ride horses and breed them so that they will apply that with cattle. Some First Nations people were able to run their own ranches successfully. Laboring on hop farms. The hop industry was one of the first agricultural enterprises that hired large numbers of First Nations people as seasonal workers. Large hop farmers of the northwest of the U.S. and southwest of Canada depended on First Nations people from the 1870s to the 1940s, when mechanization replaced them. Women, children, and men worked at the hop farms. Women and children picked the hop berries while the men did most of the work by taking care of the plants that transported the field sacks, and they operated the kilns where the hops were processed. Women and children picked the berries and earned about 1 cent a pound. Fast workers would pick up an average of 300 pounds a day, earning a total of $3. Hop picking was more than an opportunity to earn extra income. It was an enjoyable social gathering. Hundreds of families would live on the fields there, for this was a great deal of interaction between people from many different nations.